Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased to be joining you. Got another great show lined up for you this week. I know you'll think so after viewing it. Hawkeye women to the Final Four. First time since 1993, 30 years when C. Vivian Stringer was the coach here. The rest of the show, obviously Michael Merrick joins me here. I'm going to get to Michael in just a moment, my production partner, and covers for Daily Iowan Television as well as DI Newspaper. He has called the Hawkeye women's games throughout the year on Big Ten Plus. So we're going to get Michael's takeaway on this from the Big Ten champion Iowa Hawkeye women, tourney champs, to now the Final Four Iowa Hawkeyes Bluder's bunch. But the rest of the show, after Michael and I discuss that, we're going to talk with Sean Bock from 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports. What's going on in the portal for Hawkeye men's basketball? How's spring football looking so far? A lot going on around the University of Iowa campus. I do want to put a footnote and a finer point. Last week or a couple weeks, I brushstroked Tom Brands' guys going to nationals for the wrestling tournament. They did very well as a team, finished second behind Penn State. 6 of all 10 wrestlers that qualified, 6 of them made the podium and became All-Americans. Spencer Lee wasn't the way we wanted to end his career. And then obviously Real Woods, same thing, finished second. But Spencer Lee, great work. I don't want to have one match diminish what happened against Ramos against Purdue, who he beat earlier this year, and then he injury forfeited the next 2 matches. But Spencer still finished 6th and All-American status for the 5th year in a row. A lot of great stuff going on. Michael, great seeing you. How you doing?
Always great to see you, Dave. I'm doing great.
I tell you, it's always great catching up with you and talking about Iowa sports. So much going on campus. I mean, we could go on and on, couldn't we?
Oh my gosh, it's a wonderful time right now in Iowa City as a student at the university. It is absolutely buzzing right now. You mentioned about everything that's going on in the sports world, but we'd be remiss if we didn't highlight just how impactful this Caitlin Clark and this Bluder's bunch team is right now. You turn on any national story, they're leading off with Caitlin Clark. Stephen A. Smith said she's box office, one of the best college players he's ever seen. No one's talking about gender when they say this, by the way. Best college player they've seen. Jay Williams, great Duke Blue Devil. Historically, he said that Caitlin Clark's the biggest brand in college sports right now. College sports, not even just basketball. What Caitlin Clark is doing is absolutely transcending things. And a quick little thing I saw this morning on Ticketmaster for the Final Four, it's about $350 to go to the women's Final Four, only about $100 to go to the men's Final Four. Now, of course, there's less seating in the women's game, but that just shows how important and impactful and box office that this team is.
You know, if you look at the numbers, Michael, and you and I have talked about this, Coach Bluder and I talked about this when she was on this show, and we're going to end this show, by the way, of giving you snippets from 3 previous interviews that I recorded with Coach Bluder, Caitlin Clark, and Monika Czinano, all 3 separate shows, and we did that from Carver Hawkeye Arena right around the Christmas New Year holiday. So cannot wait to bring you a snippet from each one of those 3 interviews, and then progressing weeks, because we're going to catch up with Coach Bluder. She's got some recruiting to do after they win a national title, fingers crossed. You'll know the result, viewers, by the time this show airs, or if you watch it over the weekend online. If you miss it on television, if you go to DaveO'HaraSports.com, you can check out all of this show or all past shows. And they were all very focused on this mission of absolving the Creighton loss from last year. But then once they got into this postseason, they stopped talking about it. But everybody got what they wanted, not just the teams, Michael. You know where I'm going. Aaliyah, Boston, South Carolina, Caitlin Clark, Iowa.
Now we get to see Caitlin Clark, who you guarantee, we've talked to her, we know this game's been circled on her calendar. She's wanted this matchup.
For her life, not just...
for the Final Four for her life, but also that personal edge of, I know I'm the player of the year. That might not be in the forefront of her mind. What is in the forefront is winning and moving on and winning a national championship. But she's got that dog in her, as a lot of people like to say. And after hearing and losing the National Player of the Year award last year to Aaliyah Boston, and now there being a discussion this year, she really probably wants to put a stamp on, like, hey, what are we talking about here?
Now, you take a look to your exact point. Every interview, that I've seen with her, but the one that she did with us, when I was sitting at Carver with her, she rarely said I or me. It was only if I asked her a direct question about her, it was always us, we, them, they, us together. And the same thing she did on national TV after going to the Final Four, and they won that Elite Eight game. And the interesting thing about that, Michael, is this team, and she talked about it, why we're going where we're going is because we're a team. We're a collective. They have the circle they always talk about where they sit around the circle. You can see all this going together. It is unreal to see the closeness and everybody picking up for everybody else. But it also, Michael, it has stepped everybody's game up. The old iron sharpens iron. Caitlin brings that with her as well.
Yeah, she definitely does. You can see her truly elevate every single player. And that game against Louisville was the 90th start between that 5 group of players, the most in the last 20 years in Division I basketball. That just touches on the chemistry that this group has. And it's incredible to watch them play in and out. And you've talked about Caitlin never says I after every single game when she has either a double-double or a triple-double. People ask her about the passing, and she says, I can't get assists if my teammates don't get the buckets.
That's right.
So she's always giving credit to her teammates. She knows that the ship only goes as far as they can take it with her. As we've seen, Caitlin Clark's had many 40-point games where Iowa's lost. And it's the games where Gabby Marshall, Kate Martin, Monika Czinano, McKenna Warnock all step up.
That's right.
That's when Iowa is definitely at its most dangerous because Caitlin's going to get what Caitlin's going to get no matter what.
Michael, I want to just thank you for the great coverage all year long. It is going to be a fun game to watch. Again, viewers, you'll probably know the result by the time you see this, but we're hoping for a Final Four championship game, national championship game against either LSU or, you got Virginia Tech, which is in their first Final Four. Iowa's second. So you got some newcomers. I like the shakeup here. This should be a lot of fun. But thank you for your coverage all year long. You've been a great Iowa women's basketball insider for us.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a great time. And is there ever a better team to talk about than this Iowa women's basketball
absolutely.
team?
Well, I can't improve upon what you just said right there. So for Michael Merrick. Michael, thank you again very much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. For Michael Merrick, my production partner, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more. And Sean Bock from 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports talking Hawkeye football and some transfer portal news for Iowa Hawkeye men's basketball. Back with more in just a few moments.
To have a strong finish, you need an excellent start. It's true on the track and also in the field. That's why Mershman Seeds works tirelessly to deliver cutting-edge technology year after year. Introducing Starting Line, Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, now providing added protection from white mold and sudden death syndrome all season. Ask for Starting Line seed treatment from Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we are participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Sean Bock joins us from 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. Sean, a recruiting expert there. But Sean, great seeing you again.
Dave, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Sean, when I say recruiting expert, you are talking to everybody. You do a great job of getting information out there. You see Sean's information at the bottom of the screen along with mine throughout this segment. But let's you and I talk about what's upcoming with Hawkeye men's basketball. When we recorded this show last Tuesday, we found out the news after we recorded that Aaron Eulis and Josh Agundale, for the second time for Agundale, are transferring out of Iowa, have entered the transfer portal. So, Sean, when they look at the transfer portal, we always say that the portal can giveth, but also taketh away in reference to Eulis and Agundale. But who are the Hawks looking at? Hopefully there's another Philip Brach out there.
Yeah, there's a number of guys from the mid-major ranks. Rink Mass from Bradley is a name to watch. Josh Cohn from St. Francis, PA. And then a number of other guys, too. There's a few guys from the MAC, a few guys from the NEC, a number of other guys that, Iowa seems to have pretty good traction with that, they're trying to land. I mean, BJ Mack from Wofford, he's a 6'8", 6'9", below the rim type player, but Iowa's been able to get into home visit with him. There's a lot of SEC competition out there for him, and that may be where it gets kind of difficult given that, not every recruitment in the portal has to, revolve around NIL. Yeah. But there are a number of them that do.
Well, it's the reality, right?
Yes.
And there possibly an Ivy League guy in there.
Yes, possibly an Ivy League guy, and Chris Ledlam, who, is not necessarily that 4 to 5 guy, but he's more of that 3-wing type position where, you're likely losing a guy like Chris Murray. Yeah. Maybe Ledlam is not, that dynamite scorer that Chris was, but he can really fill a role on both offense and defense and can score in all three levels.
Well, we look at it, when you mentioned Chris Murray, more congratulations to him for more postseason honors, more All-America teams coming out. I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion. We'd be more surprised if he came back than if he left, right?
Right.
I think that's fair to say. Good luck to him, whatever he chooses. Would love to have him back, but also the whole point of going to college is to get a job. And if you're going to be a lottery pick, as they mentioned, he may be a late lottery pick, like 11 through 14, or for sure a late first round, mid to late first rounder. You got to go. I mean, I would love to have him back. But again, all the best to Chris, whatever he decides. So let's you and I now move on then, because we got a great class Fran does coming in for basketball with freshmen. So, you got some transfers that are leaving. Hopefully some transfers that come in through the portal with NIL and whatever other deals they can make for them. But then you've got the freshmen coming in, and Dembele, Freeman, and Harding from Moline. And so hopefully, and obviously Price Sanford. So hopefully you've got some freshman minutes there that can take up some of those minutes where the guys you've lost.
Yeah, I mean, two guys to really keep an eye on: Price Sanford, Noah Freeman next year. Freeman, who we've talked about a lot on the show, is 6'11", 6'10", around there, can provide kind of a boost for you at that 4 to 5 spot maybe. Yep. I think he's probably got the highest ceiling of anyone in that class, with his skill set and what he can potentially bring. And then Price Sanford, similar game as his older brother Peyton, who was a sophomore this year on Iowa. The hope is that Price can come in and, hit a couple outside shots. I mean, obviously a spot where Iowa struggled this season, and, he can provide, probably around 50 to 60 3-pointers. That's the goal at least.
Yeah.
To really help space the floor. And, he's got a pretty well-rounded game. He can do stuff off the dribble a little bit better than Peyton, but I think, his game, they're very similar, but also the athleticism is going to be where the adjustment is. But from a shooting perspective, he's definitely going to be one that I think could maybe churn out a role next year.
So let's transition to football and spring football. You've written great pieces on breakdowns of each position, where they are right now going into spring. And, we some positions, sometimes you can put some credence into spring ball, but we always make the joke it's just a bunch of guys running around in their, helmets and shells, they call them. Helmets, shoulder pads, and shorts and T-shirts. So what are we looking at? Take your writing and bring it onto the show here. Give us maybe not a position by position, but let's for sure start with the offensive line, where there's been a lot of questions. Obviously, Cade McNamara's health is going to depend on a lot. It's also going to depend on that line as the fall plays out here. We go from spring to summer into fall camp. That offensive line is going to have to protect him. So let's talk about some of those offensive linemen you see that may get some playing time.
Yeah, so I mean the big thing with the offensive line right now, Kirk Ferentz mentioned it last week, is there's a lot of injuries. There's about, I want to say at the top of my head, 2 to 3 starters that are currently not practicing. But as Kirk mentioned, that gives leeway to other guys to step up. And spring ball and bowl prep are probably the 2 biggest periods of the year where you see those guys make those jumps.
Yeah.
So that can leave a lot of room for that to happen. So that's a positive. Wide receiver, 2 healthy scholarship guys right now. They have 2 guys out, Jacob Bostic, Seth Anderson, who, we're going to make big jumps this year. Seth Anderson obviously being a transfer from Charleston Southern. So, injuries are definitely not in an ideal spot right now. And with an offense, those are 2 positions where obviously you have Cade McNamara, who's still recovering, going through the rehab process. But those are 2 positions at offensive line, wide receiver, outside of quarterback, where, you really want to see that leap. And, with those guys being out, that's kind of nerve-wracking.
Okay, so take us into the offense or into wide receiver. Do you have anybody on your list or on your mind? I know you wrote that, but who are you looking at?
Nico Reganey and Deontay Vines are the 2 scholarship guys.
What about Anderson coming in from the transfer portal?
Yes, Anderson coming in from the portal. Obviously he's probably going to miss, a good bulk of spring, but he's a guy that can play on the outside, inside slot, make big plays downfield. One of the big reasons Iowa recruited him was the way that he could get yards after catch and yards after contact too, and make those, potential big plays. He's got to get a little more weight on him to, sustain the Big Ten. But, what he showed on film last year, even at the FCS level, is pretty promising.
So let's talk about linebackers and then defensive back, where you lose a Riley Moss. So how are they looking? Let's look at linebacker and defensive back.
So with linebacker, Nick Jackson, who, comes from Virginia, he's not going to be on campus till the summer. But he's expected to fill that Jack Campbell role. Obviously, he's not Jack Campbell, but...
Who is?
Yeah. But, I mean, he's led the ACC in tackles per game the last couple of years and was all ACC the last few seasons too. So he's going to come in. Jay Higgins is probably going to take over that Will spot, which is where Seth Benson kind of was last year. And then the Cash Leo is where it's, Sebastian Castro will probably take over that Cash spot, but who fills in at that Leo? Is it Carson Sherrar? Is it Kyler Fisher? Those are kind of the big question marks.
And as always, thanks to Sean and thanks to Michael Merrick, my production partner who joined me on set. Stay tuned. The last segment, we're going to have snippets of my previous interviews. How appropriate, going into the Final Four with Bluder's bunch. You're going to see a snippet of an interview that I did with Lisa Bluder, head coach, Caitlin Clark, all everything, and I even say that during the interview, and Monika Czinano. And so stay tuned for our last segment of Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. Thanks again to Sean Bock and Michael Merrick and to you, the viewers. So we'll be back with more Hawkeyed in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. Our commercial truck departments are growing. With the availability of the Ram 45 5500 or the Chevy 45 to 6500, we can build the right truck for your needs. From dry freight boxes to custom rancher goosenecks, your options are unlimited. So stop in and let us show you what it means to be part of the larger Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seat company that's chasing technology, or a seat company that's writing a book on it? Merschman Seeds is a leader in technology. We're independent and family owned. Our sister company, MS Technologies, provides access to world-class traits and genetics. And our starting line seed treatment is second to none. Who can you trust with your yields? Merschman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. I'm smiling because this is going to be so cool. We've got some snippets of interviews I've done with Coach Lisa Bluder, Caitlin Clark, Monika Czinano. How appropriate. They're at the Final Four when you're seeing this, so hopefully they're at in the national championship game as we record this show on Tuesday afternoon, March 28th. These interviews that you're seeing snippets from are from mid-December to late December, and so we ran them over Christmas and New Year's and the week after New Year's. So enjoy Coach Bluder, Caitlin Clark, and Monika Czinano again, and we'll be repeating these episodes as well in the upcoming 3 weeks. So I'm going to give you a little taste of the next 3 shows, and then we'll be back to celebrate Bluder's Bunch live and in person with follow-up interviews with them. So enjoy. I mean, you can see clearly when you go to a game at Carver Hawkeye or see you folks on TV, you really are a family unit.
Yeah, and it's probably least displayed then because there I'm doing my job. It's business and we're intense and everything like that. But man, this is a family, and I know a lot of people say that and brag about that, but it is different here. And one of our values is everyone matters. And I don't care how many minutes you play on our basketball program. If you're the leading scorer, if you hardly get off the bench, you're just as important as everybody else because you're getting us ready for those games. You're a part of our circle. Yep. You're a part of our culture and our recruiting. And so it is an important thing. And to me, the joy I get is not really from winning another game. It's more for what the impact I can have on these young ladies' lives. And that's what inspires me. And in fact, my mission statement is to use the sport of basketball to influence the next generation of female leaders. And that's what it's all about to me is, watching them go on and be successful in their careers or watching them go on and have families and being a part of that for the rest of their lives.
I said to you when you came in here today and before we even started rolling the camera here, I find it fascinating when you see Carver Hawkeye packed for women's basketball and you see what Caitlin does with the, comes in and high fives all the little girls and they're holding the posters. Not just Caitlin, but Monika, every one of your teams, players, high five, you coaches. To see the impact, not just on, and this is what my production partner Michael and I were talking about before the show, it's not just young girls or girls. It's, when Michael says Caitlin Clark's the best basketball player, he calls games for Big Ten Network Plus and says Caitlin Clark's the best basketball player, male or female, in the country. Now, some people want to equivocate that. That's fine. We can discuss that. Yeah. But I think what you just brought up right there, and I would, not to correct you, but to add upon that, it's not the impact you're making just with young girls or little girls. Boys, everybody's enamored with this team of yours and what you've built here. I just think your community outreach is fantastic.
Well, I mean, the women that come here understand they're more than just basketball players. They're going to be great students, and they're going to be great ambassadors in our community. So they know that right up front. And we always talk about when you're an Iowa women's basketball player, people are going to recognize you, and that can be a little bit of a burden at times. But, I mean, it's a welcome burden for these women that want to be role models. And we get out into the schools, we talk to the kids in the schools. But, yeah, to see those kids, even away games, that's what always amazes me. Away games. We were at Nebraska last year, and a little girl had a sign that said, "Caitlin Clark, can I have your shoelaces?" And after the game, Caitlin walked over to her and took off her shoes and gave her shoes. Wow. I mean, that's the type of impact and the type of young women that we have on this team.
So let's talk about this year's team and moving forward. And we talked about, tough losing to Creighton at home last year. And, I always find it fascinating when the fans are as disappointed as you guys are. And I'm thinking, well, no, the players are more disappointed. But everybody had high expectations. And I talked about this with Monika, and I'm curious on your thoughts. And I think I know where you're going with this. But you can't let folks like me, the media, and fans take you down a path. But obviously that's pushing you, and I know you want to win the Big Ten regular season first, then the Big Ten tourney title, then we'll talk about March Madness, but that's got to be driving you this year.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think maybe last year we didn't have that little fire burning inside of us. We made it to the Sweet 16 my freshman year, and really we weren't supposed to get there. We weren't even projected to make the field at the beginning of the season, so I think we surprised a lot of people, and then obviously had our ups and downs at the beginning of last year, but then really got on a roll, really found our rhythm. We beat I think 3 top 10 teams in 4 games, and then we win the regular season title, go to Indy, win the championship, and then we come here, the place is sold out, and we kind of just, lay an egg, and, that's what stinks. You have games like that where you just can't score the ball. I thought we played decent defense, and obviously Creighton, a team that is super, super familiar with us. We scrimmaged them before the year, and I honestly thought they didn't get enough credit for how good of a team they are, and I think people are seeing that this year. They've been ranked top 15. They're super talented.
Good coach.
Great coach. Coach Flan's a great coach, but again, we should have won the game, but it just wasn't our day. But I think at the same time, that's the fire that's burning inside of us this year. We don't want to feel that same way. The coaches bring that up every now and then. It's not a great thing to think about all the time, but at the same time, it reminds us, we don't want to be there. We want to be, a few games deeper. We want to be in the Final Four. That's where we want to be, and we know it's hard to get there. We know a lot of things are going to have to fall our way, but that's our goal, and we're not afraid to say that.
Yeah, I've talked about this with Coach Bluder. I've talked about it with Monika Czinano, and I've got to talk about it with you. The community. Well, you can just see the family that you have here at Iowa. And Coach Bluder said it best to me. She said, Dave, a lot of people talk family, and I'm not knocking anybody, but she said it really is here. And it's palpable to be around you folks. And even at games when you're at each other, because it's competitive and she's coaching you guys and you're getting on each other as teammates, but it's for the common good and goal. But wow, to see the connection you have between each other and your fans, it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially, I went through the recruiting process. I visited a lot of places. I talked to a lot of coaches. I really understood what was a true family. You could tell which coaches really cared about their players and were going to care after they left their program, and were young females working in the real world. So I think that was super important for me, and Coach Bluder is really something that cares about that. She cares about us as people more than we are basketball players, and we're pretty good basketball players on top of that.
Not too shabby, yeah.
And she's a pretty good basketball coach on top of that,
you
too.
Darn
but
right.
I think at the same time, the way this community supports women's basketball is unreal. I don't think people understand that. It's not like that everywhere. And I've been to a lot of arenas, watched a lot of women's basketball games. The way these fans, first of all, come, and second of all, cheer, is unreal. This place gets so loud. If you haven't experienced it, I really recommend you come.
You got to give it to us one more time.
I know. You got to come.
There it is, right there.
Get it loud with us.
But talk about the experience being coached by the Jan Jensen in the post. How about that?
She's just phenomenal, and I'm so lucky. I don't have anything to compare it to.
Right.
I haven't had really other intercollegiate post coaches, but she is just one of the best. The things that
what is it? Details or what? Why do you think it is?
She's so little thing oriented. She's not going to try to change everything at once, but it's all these little things that build up into huge things. But I remember coming in my freshman year, all the little things I would never remember, and she would just continue to tell me over again, and all of a sudden one day it would just kind of click, I'd keep my shot higher, do this and that. But from freshman to sophomore year, the coaches collectively asked me to completely change my shot.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, whatever, you guys. It really can't be that bad.
I love that response, too. Whatever. Okay, fine.
It really can't be that bad. And then I changed my shot, and all of a sudden, my shot is faster. I'm scoring on all these different opponents. It really did make that difference. So they just see things, see potential in a way that you can't even describe. But she is just one of that. She sees us all as so much more than basketball players too. Like, she is truly going to be in my life for the rest of my life.
That's
and
awesome.
She's just, phenomenal person.
Okay, so I have to ask, so when you are in Minnesota and you see Megan Gustafson and you're being recruited, why Iowa, why Coach Bluder, why Coach Jensen? Did you see the potential, like, man, I'm going to be my best here, iron sharpens iron, or hey, it's cool, I want to get away from home? What went through your thought process?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was honestly more than basketball. Obviously, seeing Megan's success and knowing that, I mean, the coaches coach that, and that's a standard that they live up to. That was huge. But, I mean, from the second I stepped on campus, I just could tell it was such a family atmosphere. These coaches love Iowa. They're not looking for the next biggest school they can get to. They're not looking for anything after it. They truly are putting all their time and energy into Iowa. And I remember meeting with the team and just kind of seeing how they interacted, and I just knew that was a culture that I wanted to be in. So the fact that Coach J coaches post players like she does was kind of an added benefit.
Sure.
But I wanted to be a part of this family, and so it was just kind of a no-brainer once I got the offer.
And I know that you enjoyed that along with me. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks again to Coach Bluder, Caitlin Clark, and Monika Czinano, and you, the viewers, also to Michael Merrick, my production partner, and to Sean Bock from 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. So for Hawkeye, that's all from me. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.